A lot of marketing agencies don't treat themselves as a customer and rely pretty heavily on referrals or other networking aspects of what they do. How have you been successfully marketing yourselves, or do you? And are you leaning on just networking to drive your business growth?
Networking has been definitely a part of it, but we've always done our own SEO. So we have always treated ourselves as our own client. The general principle being, hey, we've got to be able to practice what we preach here. And our website has been a major lead generator since we really started getting visible.
So for us, we completely cobblers no shoes, right? We don't do our own marketing. We are 100% driven by thought leadership and speaking engagements. I fly 100,000 miles a year speaking at legal conferences.
And I remember talking to one of our private equity partners, and I'll never forget, he's like, I can't actively promote you. I know you're good. You've worked with a lot of great brands and done a lot of amazing work and have some great notoriety in this space, but I can't actively promote you if you don't have a website.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us for another episode of SEO On-Air. We have three great guests with us today. I'm going to give you each a chance to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are. Starting with Kyle, please tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, Kyle Karney. I'm with Firestarter SEO. We're a boutique SEO and Google Ads agency out of Denver. So we've been doing this for about 15 years, had a lot of fun growing this business, working with small businesses across the country. And really for us, our core focus is on getting good custom strategies with high touch points with the customers, making sure that we're taking care of them and creating something that's actually going to benefit their business, staying away from some of those, vanity keywords and some of the stuff that just isn't really going to make any difference. We're very, very results driven, really transparent. And, as a boutique shop, that's kind of the big differentiator is, we want to be super accessible to clients and make sure that we're working together hand in hand with them.
Awesome. Nice to have you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Tyler Lane, we're also based in Denver. I am the founder and CEO of Session Interactive, digital marketing agency fixating on performance, focusing on serving mid-market enterprise brands. And we have a pretty agnostic vertical set for the most part. We offer organic search, and as it's evolving into your favorite acronym choice, GEO, AEO, whatever you want to call it, we're making large strides around that service offering. Paid media, paid search, paid social, and programmatic. A bit of digital out of home. And then lastly, one of our core differentiators around analytics. We have an entire department fixated on attribution, modeling, configuration, insights, and that incorporates CRO and a number of other things as well. So I lead strategy and continue to keep the lights on around strategic partnerships as we evolve into this wild world of AI.
I like it. We're going to have a chance to put you guys to vote on what the acronym should be here at some point as well. Conrad, go ahead, please, with your introduction.
I'm Conrad Saam from Mockingbird. I am based out of Issaquah, Washington, and I work exclusively in two verticals. One is legal, so I do everything digital for legal, and the other is any doctors who happen to be married to me. That's supposed to be a joke. You guys, it's too serious. Anyway, we only work in legal, and we provide kind of comprehensive digital marketing to from a channel perspective. My perspective overall is there is often the right marketing mix for any given law firm. And most agencies approach this from like, hey, I run pay-per-click and you need pay-per-click, or hey, you need LSAs, or hey, you need what I happen to do. And so we look at this as a chessboard. It's our job to be masters of all the chess pieces, but just like in chess, sometimes the most important thing for that piece to do is actually not be moved. And so it's understanding what channels work for a given client and what channels don't.
Awesome. I think that we have three great guests today. You guys have a lot of experience. It's going to be a fun one I think with a lot of our viewers, there's a chance for a lot of them to be agency owners themselves and try to learn from other agency owners on what best practices are. The first question that I have for all three of you is really about your experience, but it's almost like jumping in a time machine and telling yourself what you should have changed had you had the experience you have now. If you could go back and change one thing about how you ran your agency, or one thing that you really learned that you wish you would have learned sooner, tell me what you would have changed.
Mine's honestly easy, and it's hard at the same time. I think the old edict of the people who got you here are not the people who will get you there is very, very real. And you know, it's a really hard thing to recognize that you have talent that is not going to get you to that next level, and that talent needs to evolve. And as a sentimental person and as a human, like those are really hard things to recognize and evolve. And so for me, the biggest, I mean, my leadership team is completely new over the last 2 years, and the agency could not get to where we are now and where we are going with who we had 2 years ago. And that's like, it's kind of a brutal thing to say, but that's just a reality that like, as your agency grows up, the experience and level of person at the agency needs to grow up as well. And we live in this kind of fallacious concept that just because you kind of grew up with something means that you can continue doing that. What you really need to do, in my opinion, is bring on those people. If you want to go from a $3 million firm to a $10 million firm, go hire someone who does what you need to be done from that $10 million firm, instead of trying to bring that person who was with you at 1 and get you to 10. And it sucks, but that's small business.
I'm going to ask a question on that before I let you, Tyler and Kyle, jump in there. What specific talents did you need to find that you didn't feel like you had before in a person to help them move to the next phase of your company?
I think and I see this in my clients. Like my clients and I are frequently at kind of the same growth trajectory. The operational excellence person. When you're a small business, when you're a small budding agency, you can get stuff done because you can, like, it's very easy to get stuff done and it's very easy to communicate. And as your size increases, getting to a level of operational efficiency is something that you feel like you should evolve into, but it actually needs to be transformational, right? And it actually needs to be someone who comes in from a transformational perspective. Because if you evolve at that small company operating mindset, you will hit a ceiling and you will always stay at that kind of small company operational mindset.
Tyler and Kyle, tell me what you guys think. Does that align with yours, or is yours completely separate?
I'll jump in, Kyle. Yeah, no, I think that's spot on in a lot of ways. Try to make those larger top line revenue metrics. But our most important KPI is net margin, followed by gross margin. So ensuring efficiency is essential. And if you have those core team members, I think it's the evaluation criteria. It's like a lot of people are just fixated on keeping those individuals intact. Maybe they're good, but they're like, how do you go through that evaluation? I think that's something that's really it's tough, and making sure you're making those decisions. But as a key foundational element of any CEO, it's to make decisions, sell the dream, and be able to diagnose the landscape. And those are certain things that all correlate to kind of blowing up the executive team, if you will, Conrad, to try to get you to that next hump.
I think Kyle's coming back into this.
Kyle might be back in, maybe not. But let's tile. I just mix. So the funny thing is, I have a Kyle and a Tyler on my team, both on the SEO side, and we conflate their names all the time to Kyler, which I just did to you guys, which is trash. But Kyle, you're back in. So the question was, what's one thing you wish you had done earlier when building your agency?
No, so okay, one thing that I wish I'd done earlier, investing in Google Ads faster and more extensively. The reason why we've gotten serious about it over the last 5 years, really 4 or 5 years, and we're making about $15 ROAS for every dollar we spend. And our model, this digital marketing model is one that's so good because it's a recurring revenue model that, as long as you're serving the client well, they're clients for a long time. And so the return on these things is absolutely phenomenal. It has been such a powerful mechanism for growth for us. We'd always done our own SEO, which has been, very, very valuable, but doubling down on the Google Ads has been a huge accelerant for our growth over the last 5 years.
So I'm going to actually take a little bit of a pivot here from the standard questions we were going to ask. One thing that we've seen on the podcast is that a lot of marketing agencies don't treat themselves as a customer and rely pretty heavily on referrals or other networking aspects of what they do. So I'm going to throw an open question out to all of you. And Kyle, thank you for kind of leading it this way, because I do think this is a pretty common problem for a lot of agencies. How have you been successfully marketing yourselves, or do you? And are you leaning on just networking to drive your business growth?
Yeah, great question. Networking has been definitely a part of it, but we've always done our own SEO. So we have always treated ourselves as our own client, right? And the general principle being, hey, we've got to be able to practice what we preach here. And our website has been a major lead generator since we really started getting visible. And as I mentioned before, doubling down on that with the Google Ads has been extremely valuable, because all of a sudden we have ad placements, we have local pack ads, we have local pack visibility, and we have organic results. And so, that first page visibility has been killer for us in terms of the lead generation.
Tyler and Conrad, what are you guys seeing?
So for us, we completely cobblers in their shoes, right? We don't do our own marketing. We are 100% driven by thought leadership and speaking engagements. I fly 100,000 miles a year speaking at legal conferences. I have seen the inside of so many Marriotts that I just never want to do that ever again. But in our space, there's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of sharing. It is a very, very tight community, whether you love or hate everyone else in the community. And we are entirely driven by thought leadership. Now, it's not just speaking engagement. So like our podcast, it's a small but rabid listenership. We run our own conference built around the podcast, which we just finished. So we had, I spent 3 days with 120 prospects 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. So for me, it is 100% thought leadership driven. And that turns into referrals, but it's really like pay-per-click has not worked for us. SEO worked for a while, and then it's just gotten unbelievably competitive. So I would need a $20,000 a month retainer to run SEO in our own space in order to be successful. I just don't. For me, it's all speaking.
I'll chime in. It reminds me when I first got started, because I'm a practitioner and started as an SEO consultant, an analytics and CRO consultant, and I didn't have a website for the first 2 years of consulting, and started getting, the classic is you land a big client or two, and then you realize you've got something here, and then it takes shape. And I remember talking to one of our private equity partners, and I'll never forget, he's like, I can't actively promote you. I know you're good. You've worked with a lot of great brands and done a lot of amazing work and have some great notoriety in this space, but I can't actively promote you if you don't have a website. So, yeah. And then, outside of just a portfolio site or just, essentially just a splash page, if you will, it's evolved significantly over the last couple of years, fixating on our own SEO, speaking engagements, podcasts, things like that. But there's always room for improvements on our own marketing. I think you're spot on, as a lot of marketing agencies neglect that foundational piece.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Conrad, you actually touched on something that we heard on the last, on a different recording session, which was the cobbler's kids have no shoes kind of thing. It's the ROI that it's difficult to find when it's a saturated industry that everyone knows how to do SEO and PPC. Kyle, I find it actually fascinating that you're driving so much success through your paid ads. Yeah, tell us how that's working.
Yeah, great question. It's been so good. I don't know. So part of it is where we start is where do we have first page visibility organically, I mean, right? And so we look at that as the low-hanging fruit, because if we have organic rankings for a term like SEO Company Denver, for example, right, something like that, if we throw an ad on there, what's interesting about this is the ad performance itself actually doesn't necessarily change a whole lot. So we still convert at a pretty normal clip. We do well, but you're looking at a 10% conversion rate, something like that, and that's it. Where we actually have seen most of the benefit is in the organic conversions that get driven once we roll the ad live. There's a direct correlation towards launching the ad and seeing the organic conversions increase, right? So still, I think general consumer behavior, most people skip ads still. And when they do, they at least see your brand at the beginning, and then they see it one or two more times. And then if they see it that third or even fourth time on the first page, then you see some big jumps. And so the good thing is again, we're able to pretty directly track returns with our ad spend and all that fun stuff. But that's been kind of the secret sauce is, hey, we throw an ad up for something that we're visible for, and it pays dividends mainly through the organic results that are shown up there.
That's interesting. The polarization, almost like that you capture the 90% with that little bit more work kind of thing, right?
I think too, Kyle, it's like based on your ICP target, right, is as SMBs too. So that's going to help a lot more.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're not going after the big enterprise level clients or things like that. It's really small business owners, and that's our sweet spot. Yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
Well, that works good since you're both in Denver. You guys can play nice together on a call like this.
100%. Yeah.
Tyler, you mentioned something too that kind of brings us into the next question, which was like your first big win that made you feel like you were really like kind of driving success. I think I always try to rephrase these questions a little bit to, I think, fit the conversation well, but I want to think about this again from like the agencies that are listening to us. What was the first big win that not only told you were really working, but kind of gave you that beating imposter syndrome and let you know that you're good at what you do? Yeah,
and it's like, I wouldn't say it's a cliche response necessarily, but the network, right? So I was able to work to a variety of digital agencies and client side here in Denver and established great relationships with some of these agency partners through some of those client side engagements and then through those direct agencies as well. And when I decided to consult, I reached back out to those agencies, and I think I closed probably 3 or 4 within the first couple of months. It was awesome. I felt really lucky, and just the fixation on nurturing those relationships. Another one, a quick story, is that I was recruiters would reach out, right, and say, "Hey, we'd love to hire you, Tyler." And I'll never forget, I would always reposition it, and say, "Well, I'm not interested in going to that agency, but I'd love to contract." And 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 would say no. But I had a great relationship and ended up developing one with Sierra Interactive, which is one of the premier agencies in our industry, and close connections of mine. And this recruiter actually, she's like, "Listen, we established a little bit of a rapport and had a couple of conversations." And she's like, "We have a couple leads that are not looking for an agency; they're looking for solo consultants." And one of our, like a Fortune 500 company, was one of those, and that ended up being a client for us for about 5 years. So you never know, right? And that's what I kind of live by, is the never know concept, and just can keep the rapport going, keep the quality going, and you never know.
I like it. I think we talked about it. Sierra Interactive was a guest on the podcast as well, which I think was part of your reason for saying yes, I think, in the background in the network.
Yeah, I love Sierra. They're great people.
Kyle, Conrad, tell us, how did you beat imposter syndrome? What made you guys really feel that momentum go?
All you, Conrad. Go for it.
I was waiting for you to answer, because this is going to come across as super arrogant. The whole imposter syndrome, I was really lucky. I got into this industry in 2006 when no one knew what they were doing. And I worked for this big directory. And so I grew that to the #1 directory in the country, not because I'm unbelievably brilliant, but because no one knew what they were doing. When I left that, I picked up that crazy client who had the 212 websites, which we fixed over a period of 6 to 9 months. And we were winning. So my skip was not really imposter syndrome. It was a skip from I'm going to go from a consultant to a business, right? And so my biggest, and this remains the scariest, biggest win that I've ever had, was hiring the first person. When you're like, I'm now responsible for someone else's financial future. That was absolutely terrifying. And if your agency's now like, it's too late, you've already gone through this thing. But when you do that, honestly, it was absolutely terrifying. And the level of responsibility that you have for someone else's financial future, and it's not just your, like, it used to be for your clients and yourself, and now it's for an employee who's actually becomes more important. You have to put that as your number one priority. That was terrifying. But then like John Landman came on and like we were killing it. We're still doing awesome, right? And so like it just works. But that I got to be honest, that was a cliff I was so nervous to jump over, right? And and I apologize for me coming across as an arrogant, unhumble, no imposter syndrome jerk, but let me put this differently. Had we not killed it with those two projects, had I not had that level of hubris, I may not have been willing to bring on an employee, right? Like, and I may have, like, there's such a huge responsibility with having that first employee that I had to know that this was going to work for the next 12 months for this guy. And it did, right? But that would have been a really hard thing to do if you're like, I think I got it, right? So that was my biggie. Kyle's out.
Yeah, the weight of you communicating
guys.
that is actually like
cut out again. I just dropped a chat. I'll bow out. Sincere apologies on this. I genuinely had no idea what's going on that one.
No, I think I was just introducing you to answer the question if you missed anything there.
Koa, he's gone. He's there we go. Sorry.
Well, Conrad, the weight of that, the way that you're putting it, I'm like as an agency, I've worked in agencies for quite some time. I'm thinking about how everyone dreams about running their own agency when you're working for an agency, right? They're like, well, I could maybe do this on my own, but the weight of running it yourself and hiring and firing and even, like you said, maybe transitioning some of those employees that were there to the start, but maybe didn't play the end role for you. That seems the weight that a lot of agencies, especially the startup side, kind of have to go with. Tyler, did you feel the same thing when you hired your first employee?
I wish I had hired an employee sooner. We have a hybrid model that we'll continue to maintain with dedicated FTEs and then about 15 additional contractors. But I think that was just a core tenet of being a CEO is being decisive. And I think I wavered a bit initially and kind of what I wanted. And ultimately, I knew I wanted to grow the agency, and through an FTE was really the way. Just noticing that not all, but select contractors just didn't feel bought in. They were just kind of come and go, paycheck, project here and there. And what I wanted, I needed to start building a culture. One, I needed to ensure that two, people felt more bought in and they were part of something. And that was kind of my goal as well, to sell the dream, right? To sell the future around what's possible. So I honestly wish I had hired sooner.
And if you have contractors, getting contractors to buy into the dream, like it's a hired gun thing, right? Like, and you can't have a vision and a dream by yourself, right? So I totally get that.
So the weight of that first employee, did you guys end up, because typically I think of that first employee as a contractor in some ways. You're paying a salary, but you don't necessarily have benefits worked out and other aspects of it. How did that phase grow for you guys? How did you manage that?
So this is because I'm a Seattle snowflake. We have done full benefits and over the top benefits from the very, very beginning. It was very much not a contractor like that. Bringing John on, like we that meant that we had to think about healthcare and like all of those things. Those were elements of this. We put a retirement plan together with our first hire. That was like, we're all in. And I mean this, it's because I'm responsible for this dude's future, right? And so like even today, I care about the percentage of my people that are maxed out on their retirement plan, right? And we're at 93%. So 93% of my employees are maxed out on their retirement plan right now. Because I care about it, and like this is something that I do. But like and that's been from the very beginning. You know, I started the agency. I had young kids. I had a wife. And so the agency covered their insurance, and I've kept that going because I was doing it for myself. And like, if I'm going to do it for myself, I should be doing that for my employees. But that was from the very, very beginning. I never looked at John as a contractor. And we do some overflow contract work, but ultimately and this is the next segue maybe, but like this is a team and it's not a family, but like this is a team and everyone is on the team and we try and treat the team really, really well. I believe that if you prioritize our mission sounds like this. We are going to dramatically improve the lives of our employees and our clients in that order through exceptional marketing, right? And I prioritize employees first, clients second, and that ultimately eventually rolls down to the agency.
Tyler, how did you handle that same aspect of your first employee?
Yeah, definitely didn't go all in like that, but I mean, I love that mentality. It reminds me of, is it Ken? Ken, he's up in the Seattle area, Portland area, actually.
I know what you're going to say.
You know, I'm talking Anvil. Yeah, he really
tell the story.
He was just prioritizing revenue and profit over everything, and I'm probably taking words a little bit out of the story, and ultimately he adopted more of this employee first culture, and with all different techniques, that a lot of the techniques that we've adopted as well at Session around just more communication, more opportunity to evolve, and fixating on employees first and client secondary. It's very similar to Conrad, what you've been doing to ensure you have those employees and they get the vision and focus. So for us, it's been steadily evolving, like obviously quality compensation, and then getting into retirement benefits, healthcare, of course, et cetera, to ensure that they know we're committed to them. And it's scary for sure, right? Because then you're holding yourself accountable, especially when you go from all contractors, you're like the super nimble engine. But in order to really grow, you have to commit, and that's a part of those decision-making process.
Yeah, there's been a question that we've asked in the podcast about like how do you hire leadership that matches your culture, your dream, your vision. And I imagine bringing on full benefits package for an employee, you're trying to bring in someone that you know is going to move the needle for your customer the right way pretty early. It sounds like you went aggressive on going after the right people. Is that accurate, Conrad?
We have full benefits from top to bottom, right? So it's not just, I'm not just using that to bring in high level leadership. That's just like, again, the bleeding heart Seattle liberal coming out in me and living what I believe in. How do you find the right leadership? So to match with the vision, like I think one of the things that you have to recognize is that there's some really, really great quality, amazingly talented people who will not fit in your culture, right? I'm in Seattle. Many of my friends work for Amazon. There's no way someone who excelled at Amazon would kill it in my agency. Like and they're really smart and they're really good. And there's no way I would ever hire someone who's excelled there, because culturally it's just a completely wrong fit. And so what I have found is, I wrote this just the other day. If you can get people who are amazing, but amazing at what they do, but like viciously loyal to you, right? And the company, like that level of loyalty is something that means they've got your back no matter what, even if it's on against you, right? You're like, hey, like I've definitely had two of my people be like push back on things that I was doing, because you're like, you're not really embodying what you want the company to be like right now, right? And so they'll be viciously loyal to you, even when it means pointing out where you are not living up to your own standards, right? And what you want the culture to be like. And so I think this concept of vicious loyalty has hit me recently as being the most important thing. And that's a hard thing to interview for, and it's a hard thing to assess an external person from, right? It's something that shows up over time in your organization.
Yeah. I'll chime in too. It kind of reminds me of onboarding or offboarding, right? There used to be like for years in my younger days, you're so frustrated about losing a client, right? And you check out immediately. And now we take this different tact where we like not kill them with kindness, but like over deliver in the offboarding process, right? Can we meet with your new agency? Can we how can we make you as successful as possible? And it's very similar to relating it to employees, to essentially having these stay interviews, so to speak, to how are you What are your particular personal goals? What are your company related goals? What are your own vision? And if that vision doesn't align with our vision at Session, then let's help you get to that other place outside of Session. We want to endorse you, and that's just the thing that also comes back to just the network and the rapport and quality and having that reputation. So those are those core things that just integrate with everything that we should and everyone should be doing theoretically, in my opinion.
I love your approach to the offboarding, because I suspect what happens then, it is such a overt sign to your employees, not to it's to the clients, but it's really to the employees, that even when someone is going to walk away, we are going to over deliver and be amazing for them as they walk out the door. Even if that means over delivering, that lesson that you teach to employees, even when it's that person, even when that's the person who maybe hasn't paid their bill on time, whatever it might be, we're still going to be amazing to them. That means we're really going to be amazing in every situation. And I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Conrad. Yeah, it's funny, that is that initially, right, when you first start, it's like that kind of that ego. You're like, God, you take it personally. And it's like, listen, budget, I mean, we lose clients 99% of the time. If we lose a client, it's based on budget, right? It's rarely performance. But if it is performance, or if it's a new CMO coming in to clean house or certain things, we get it. So let's keep it going and make sure people are correctly onboarded. If they're willing. It's funny. Some people are just like, nah, I'm good. I don't need your help. It's like, okay, that's fine. We're around. We're not going anywhere.
And when you can't find that password to log into the blah, blah, blah account, give us a call and we'll make sure that you've got it.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to ask this because I had someone bring it up on a different podcast. That offboarding process, it is important. And often you're connecting to an agency that maybe was even larger than you, or you hand them off to an intern, and you're realizing that it's just a matter of time until they come back, because there's maybe a level of support you're expecting them not to get from other agencies. Have you won them back because the offboarding process was so thorough? Have people changed their mind halfway and decided, yeah, never mind, I'm gonna stick around?
To me, I can't pinpoint a boomerang client based on offboarding necessarily. To me, it's just it doesn't even matter. I mean, it matters, right? I guess, again, that whole concept of you never know. And our reputation is everything, right? So I want to make sure, hey, it didn't work out with us. That's fine. And we're going to make sure, your next agency, your internal partner is set up for success, and give them as many ideas and certain things that we think could work out. And we've had conversations with clients hey, performance wasn't there. This is a paid media client, a tech client a while ago, went through a lot of struggles with them, and we've got a great rapport with them. They're like, hey, we're going to cancel the contract. Great, we get it. We want to be the first ones to say performance is not there. Let's rethink this, re-strategize, or let's part ways. And we have a great rapport with them. They reached out. We actively talk with them still on what they're doing and how they've evolved their success outside of us. So it's just, maybe not every client's a perfect fit.
We've definitely had boomerang clients. I can think of 4 of them right now. I mean, the agency's been around a long time, so that's going to happen naturally. So we have boomerang clients. I will. So this is tactical, and it's going to come across as underhanded. It's not meant to come across as underhanded. One of the things that I think is really important when you start with a new agency is to get all of the access to all of your things. Make sure that you're controlling who has access to things. Most agencies do a really bad job of that. And what that means as an agency is we have access to a bunch of our clients' data, our ex-clients' data, or our ex-clients' performance. Every agency has this. And if you don't have it, you just haven't looked for it. One of the things I like to do is call them up 6 months later and be like, hey, just an FYI, I'm really uncomfortable knowing that we have access to your blah, blah, blah data, right? And so it's a great way to keep in touch, to be very, very white glove and plant the seed that we've currently got is not really, hasn't done a really great job of being persnickety about that attention to detail, who's got access to their key data. So we do that on occasion.
I was going to say, are you very thorough about making sure that when someone joins you, you've cleared all their old stuff to make sure that other people...
That's like step 1A right?
I say it's not underhanded if you're doing it right yourself to make sure that the other agency is doing the same thing, I'd say.
Yeah, no, but like it's really, your data is really important. I know, like there's, you do not, I mean it genuinely, but it's also the sales tactic. Like, I genuinely don't want access to your data after the fact. Like, it's so problematic. What if I have like, it's just don't do that. But yeah. So we go out of our way to make sure that we control access pretty carefully. And I'm sure we F that up on occasion, right? I'm sure there's oversight. I'm sure we make mistakes, but like, as an agency, that should be part of your onboarding and part of your offboarding. We do things where we kick ourselves out of accounts when people offboard.
The amount of legacy access that we still have, Conrad, and then
it's terrifying.
is insanity. You're right. And we started a process about a year ago where it was similar. Like, we didn't want to have any type of access on, the rarity that it would be someone would get in and change something. And I'm speaking mostly on Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager specifically. I mean, GTM in all its right, it controls aspects of your website, and that's a dangerous tool. And that's also it's a little bit of a sales tactic too. It's like, we did a GA4 implementation when that was big last 2 years ago, and we followed up and stated, here are some improvement opportunities. Consider this. If not, no worries. Please delete our access, or with delete ourselves in certain cases. So, yeah, it's a conversation starter.
Well, the next question for you guys was going to be around differentiators. I actually might skip through that one because I feel like you guys have boldly stated your differentiators so well already that I can maybe move through it quickly, because I do want to move into the AI aspect of the podcast.
Sure.
So, Conrad, did you want to speak anything on your differentiators that already hasn't been spoken about?
I mean, this is germane to the legal industry. I'm sure it applies elsewhere, but like, it's such a dirty, underhanded industry. The digital marketing world is just, in legal, it's cutthroat and dirty and underhanded, and we have seen all sorts of shenanigans, and we just like to know BS stuff. Right. And there is so much. So like, a lot of people talk about, when I talked about doing, like, I do a lot of speaking, a lot of my content is, and I have full presentations built on like graphs that agencies don't want you to see, or ways that agencies take advantage of you. Right. And it happens over and over and over again. And these poor small businesses just get taken to the cleaners, because the most simplistic example is an agency will count every time the phone rings as a lead, right? Well, it's not a lead because it's someone who's a client, or it's your spouse calling, right? And they'll triple count, quadruple count. So we really go out of our way to position ourselves against the rest of it. And then our industry, lawyers, by and large, hate marketing people, right? And they think they're sleazy slime bags, and many of them are. And we try and sit on the other end of that spectrum. And it's been very effective for us. It's simplistic, but it's been effective.
I may have brushed over it too quickly in the fact that both of you have defined your companies of having a culture that is so different than what I want to call like the cookie cutter agencies that are out there, where they have like their 3 packages that have been established and they sell them, and they just assume that the tasks in there are going to work because they don't customize every aspect of it. You guys have both differentiated yourselves in a way that stands out, and that's almost why I wanted to brush over it, but I probably should emphasize it. And Conrad, the way you speak about that, the kind of differentiating yourself by almost poking holes in all the problems that you do know that the customers are frustrated with, I think that's a great way. Tyler, I should give you a second here. Tell me how you approach things to differentiate yourself. Obviously the numbers, but what else?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's inevitable in certain cases that, especially when SOWs are lined out, you have channel specific line items, right? So that inevitably create silos. And I think, we're trying to get away from that and be more immersive without being a full service agency, right? I think that's, we're never say never, right? But I don't believe we're going to be offering development. I don't believe we'll be offering expanded design and video production. That's not necessarily something that we want to fixate on. We want to fixate on search and attribution associated with that landscape, which is incredibly broad and quite fragmented these days. So, but I think it is trying to hone in on a business's those core questions, those core goals, because I think marketing as a whole is essential, but a lot of the times I find that other agencies really just fixating on channel performance and not understanding like, hey, the business is failing, right? Oh, the channel is doing great, but it's like, okay, you're not asking the core questions to really immerse yourself in the business to benefit it outside of your individual channel. So easier said than done, absolutely. But I think that's something we really would pride ourselves in, to get deeper into what the hell the business is, or what's happening. What are the revenue metrics? What are those core goals that are happening on a continuous basis? Because channel practitioners, again, get so fixated on and with blinders on around their individual channels and lack that understanding.
Okay, I'm probably going to skip over the AI questions for the sake of time. We only have a couple minutes left here, but sorry. I think that there's
we just bungled your planning. Sorry.
No, this is all fun. This is like, I just want good conversation. I actually thought of one more question that we could brush over to wrap up here. I talked to a large white label agency, and they expressed that a lot of customers are trying to buy marketing more as like a software than as a service. You both have positioned yourself where your product is definitely a service, where you're diving deeper into the company, their problems, even like the rev optimization, like making sure they're actually converting in some of these leads. And so how are you approaching that sales process where people want less friction when shopping? Or it's the appearance that I'm getting from like one of the large agencies that we discussed that with. How are you handling the conversations with your customers? Because it feels like that would probably be a common issue as well. Is that something that you guys are seeing, where they want it to be a simple purchase, but you have to complicate it because your service is far more than a plug and play product?
Conrad, I'll let you take that one.
Sure. You've used two different words that I think are really important to be definitive. We literally had this conversation last week. We do not have products. We have services, right? And that's fundamentally, foundationally different. And the way I deal with, if any client is this is one of the things with RFPs, right? Do you respond to RFPs? People who are submitting RFPs or putting out RFPs are looking for a product. And usually it is a low cost product to do a thing they already think they need, right? If you're looking for a service, you are looking for someone who is going to transform your business. And that is a foundationally different perspective. When we talk about a service, we are going to do anything we have to do in order to make you successful. If it's a product, and if I sell you the coffee cup and the coffee cup doesn't do exactly what you need, like, it's fine. You bought the coffee cup and you knew you were buying the coffee cup. But the reality is, each of my clients is their own perfect little snowflake, and they all think they're special. And you know what? They all actually are special, because they have different assets, they have different liabilities, they have different business objectives, they have different competitive sets, right? They have different locations, which plays into local search and LSAs. Like, the tactical elements that you need to put into play are all unique, not germane, but unique to their individual situation. And so for us, with our clients, they are special. They all are different, and you can't put a product on top of that. And so when people come to us like, I need SEO or I need pay-per-click or something, that's looking to buy a product. What I want a client who, when we find out that Mary, who answers the phone on Thursdays, does a really bad job of converting those leads, that we can have a conversation with our client about Mary. Right? Like, and that's not within the scope of SEO or pay-per-click or anything, but like, we need to be solving their business problems, and you don't solve that ultimately with a product that is germane to their competitors.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that structure, Conrad. And I think I'm reflecting a lot now, just around when I first started in marketing, and I started getting some notoriety and some experience, and wanting all the information, the complete discovery, right? Getting all the details. And in fact, I was hindering my own ability, because I needed to just move, right? So, and get things in market, get things going, not to just check a box, but just to move and develop that rapport, instead of trying to, the classic, like, perfect is the enemy of good kind of thing. So two things come to mind, like RFPs, right? Oh my gosh, it's a disaster. And it's just a wild concept to begin with. If clients are looking like that, to your point around productizing particular things, or that white label agency that you mentioned, that's not a fit for us by any means, because we want to immerse as much as possible, knowing that we can't be perfect, or we're not going to get all of the essential information necessarily. We're trying to get as much as possible and get that level of what I'm calling like thematic visibility, right? Where so we get its larger percentage of directional accuracy, if that makes sense. That can just keep us moving, and knowing that we're going to evolve, knowing that the strategy that we put in place is likely going to be blown up in 2 to 3 months, if not sooner, based on other internal factors that why didn't we hear about this in discovery when we onboarded you? It's like, well, there's a lot of other things at play here, and a lot of other responsibilities that those internal team members have too. I think that was my naive thought process too. My client's a digital marketing manager. Why aren't they? We're doing their entire job for them. That's completely inaccurate. So there's a lot of other things going on.
Oh, this has been awesome, guys. We are out of time. I'm really grateful to have you both on as guests. I'm sorry we lost one along the way. We'll see how editing handles that. But this has been another episode of SEO On Air. Thanks for joining us.